She called 911 the very second I loaded my first box into the U-Haul. No exaggeration the moment cardboard touched metal. "He's abandoning the rules," she screeched, voice sharp enough to crack windshield glass. 5 police cruisers swarmed my driveway like I was running a meth lab instead of packing dishes. I stood there holding a box of plates while officers spread out across my lawn with hands on their holsters, and Darlene Pritchard, our HOA president and self-appointed dictator, waved her arms from her perfect lawn like she'd just caught a terrorist. What she didn't know was that in less than 20 minutes she'd find out she wasn't the queen of Maple Grove anymore. She was about to become my tenant. Let me back up. 18 months earlier, I was wandering around my old house in Columbus, grieving my wife Sarah, trying to remember how to breathe. Every corner felt like a bruise. I needed out of the memories, out of the silence, out of the life that felt too big for one person. Maple Grove looked like salvation. 22 homes, quiet streets, maple trees lining the sidewalks, neighbors waving from across the yard. I bought a little ranch house and told myself this was the first step toward healing. 23 days later, healing got punched in the face. That was the day Darlene showed up. Late 50s velour tracksuit sunglasses you'd expect on a celebrity, avoiding paparazzi, and a cloud of perfume so thick I swear it had mass. She shoved a color-coded binder into my chest. "Welcome to Maple Grove," she said, smiling with her teeth but not her eyes. "These are our community standards." 47 pages. Lawn height between exactly 2.5 and 3 inches. Trash cans invisible from the street. Only 8 approved shades of beige for mailboxes. Weekly inspections. She said it proudly, weekly inspections, as if she were announcing free cupcakes instead of neighborhood surveillance. Something in my stomach tightened, but I was still in that fog of early grief where you're too tired to fight. So I nodded, smiled, and told myself she was just enthusiastic. The first violation landed at my door like a guilt grenade. 3.2 inches of grass. She measured with a ruler. $150 fine. I paid it. Maybe she was just overzealous. Then my father visited. 76 years old Vietnam vet, drives a tiny camper because hotel mattresses kill his back. He parked in my driveway, and 2 hours later, violation. Recreational vehicles prohibited. $500 fine. 24 hours to remove it or face a lien. Pop cracked open a beer on my deck and said, "Son, I didn't fight for freedom so some clipboard tyrant could tell me where to park." I laughed, but something inside me snapped into focus. Something sharp. Then came the turtle. The stupid little ceramic turtle Sarah gave me for our 20th anniversary. It lived by my mailbox, small enough to fit in my hand, a reminder to slow down, breathe, heal. Darlene fined me $300 for it. Unapproved ornament. Remove in 72 hours. That one broke me. I sat in my car with my forehead against the steering wheel, shaking with anger, grief, disbelief. It wasn't about rules. It was about control. And I knew right then she enjoyed this. She enjoyed watching people bend. But here's the thing about grief, it can hollow you out or it can harden you. And that day mine crystallized. I went to the next HOA meeting, held in her living room naturally, because why pretend it's Democratic folding chairs, stale coffee, her husband Vernon scratching notes like he was taking minutes at a hostage negotiation. When I brought up fine proportionality and state statutes, she laughed. "We don't answer to renters," she said, even though I owned my home. I saw the fear flash across other homeowners' faces. They wouldn't look at me. They wouldn't look at her either. That's when I filed a FOIA request. Cost me $20. What I got back was a manila envelope stuffed with rot. $47,000 in fines collected the previous year. Only $8,000 spent on community improvements. The rest administrative costs. I knew a slush fund when I saw one. I knocked on doors. Nobody answered. Curtains shifted, lights flicked off, footsteps retreated. People were terrified. Finally, an elderly woman named Glennis cracked her door open. Her hands trembled as she whispered, "She fined me for my bird feeder. $15 at Walmart, and Darlene called it visual clutter. I promised to cover her next fine if she signed my petition." She cried. Signed. Word spread quietly. Porch lights turned on when I knocked. Tiny rebellions. But I still barely had signatures. And that's when doubt hit hard. I sat at my kitchen table at 2 in the morning surrounded by papers telling myself I was crazy. Who was I to fight a whole HOA? Who was I to stir up a hornet's nest when all I wanted was peace? And then Pop walked in, half asleep, poured himself a glass of water and said, "Son, you're not fighting her. You're fighting for yourself, and for people who don't have the strength to." He walked away like he hadn't just rebooted my soul. That was the night I started building my spreadsheet. 22 homes. Which ones were rentals? Which ones had absentee owners? Which ones were heading toward foreclosure? Which families were quietly thinking about moving? I didn't need to convince Darlene to be fair. I just needed 51% of the votes. Property 1 duplex owned by a landlord in Texas. Overpaid $10,000. He accepted in 4 hours. Property 2, a foreclosed ranch owned by an estate that just wanted to be done. Property 3 and 4, messy divorces, underwater mortgages, families desperate to get out from under Darlene's thumb. I bought everything through different LLCs, each untraceable. Meanwhile, Marcus, my tenant, attended meetings and recorded everything. Backdated minutes, fake votes. Emergency rules passed without quorum. She wasn't just corrupt, she was sloppy. And still, there were moments I almost quit. Doors slammed in my face. People whispered that I was making things worse. One night I stared at my spreadsheet with tears in my eyes thinking, what if she's right? What if I am the problem? Then something shifted. A video went viral. Darlene screaming at Glennis in her new retirement community's parking lot, calling her a traitor for selling her home. 83 years old, trembling under a torrent of insults. The internet tore Darlene apart, and the neighborhood finally saw her for what she was. And then Chen showed up at my door with a bulging folder. I kept everything from when she made me temporary board secretary, he said. Bank transfers to a shell company. Inflated construction invoices with kickbacks in writing. A fraudulent lien placed on a homeowner who had paid everything in full. It was a goldmine of criminal stupidity. My attorney Phyllis reviewed it and said, "Congratulations, Roland. This is felony embezzlement. She's going down." I hit 53% ownership 3 weeks later. 12 homes, 12 votes. Darlene didn't know she'd already lost. Election day arrived. At 6 a.m., Kate, the local reporter, published her article, HOA President Accused of Embezzling $31,000. Photos, interviews, invoices, everything. By noon, 3 news vans were circling Maple Grove like sharks scenting blood. Darlene panicked, tried to cancel the meeting. Phyllis shut her down in one curt email. Elections cannot legally be canceled once announced. Attendance skyrocketed. By 7 p.m., the community center was overflowing. Darlene sat at the front table wearing enough makeup to seal cracks in concrete. She pounded her gavel and tried to start with a motion to hire a crisis PR firm for $25,000. I stood up. "Point of order," I said, holding up the bylaws. "Elections come first, no exceptions." Phyllis backed me up. The room erupted in murmurs. Darlene's face twitched like a glitching robot. Nominations opened. Bernard stood and nominated me. 12 hands shot up to second it, my tenants, my allies, homeowners who'd been bullied for years. Darlene sputtered, "Who are you people?" I walked to the podium and connected my laptop to the projector. "My name is Roland," I said, "and I own 53% of Maple Grove." Gasps around the room. The slide behind me showed 12 houses highlighted in blue. And I'm done living under a tyrant. Darlene's jaw unhinged. Vernon quietly got up, grabbed his notebook, and walked straight out the door without looking back. I clicked to the next slide. Bank statements, kickback emails, fraudulent liens, screenshots, dates, dollar amounts. The room fell into a stunned, icy silence. Darlene lunged to her feet. "These are fake. He photoshopped these. They came from county records," I said, "and from your own files, certified by a forensic accountant." Camera shutters clicked. A TV reporter scribbled furiously. Then I displayed the lien on the Patterson home, the one she placed after. They paid their fines in full. Their lender denied their refinance because of it. $40,000 lost. You could feel rage building in the room like a storm. Darlene started shaking. "This is a witch hunt." "No," I said. "This is accountability." The vote began, all in favor of electing Roland as HOA president. 18 hands rose. Only 2 didn't. Darlene and the one neighbor too confused to function. I swallowed hard, grabbed the gavel she'd cracked earlier, and said, "Effective immediately. Darlene Pritchard is removed from all HOA authority." She shrieked something unintelligible, grabbed her purse, and bolted for the door, knocking over a chair. The cameras followed her into the parking lot, where she fumbled with her keys, shaking so hard she nearly dropped them into a storm drain. And that's where my story ends. Right at the moment she realized she wasn't untouchable. Right when the crown slid off her head and shattered on the pavement. Because when a bully finally meets a wall, they can't push through. It's not loud. It's quiet. A collapse inward, the sound of power leaving their hands forever. And the lesson: if you don't stand up to tyranny, big or small, no one will do it for you.